Howdy Internet, I'm Zach, and I'm here today to talk about the brand new James Bond film, Spectre. Now, Spectre is directed by Sam Mendes, stars Daniel Craig, Léa Seydoux, Ralph Fiennes, and Dave Bautista. Now, I'm just going to say, going into this movie, I had absolutely huge expectations. Skyfall is one of my favorite Bond movies ever, so I was expecting really good things for Spectre. And while I had a whole lot of fun with Spectre, I don't think Spectre held up to my expectations, and I don't think Spectre's as good of a movie as Skyfall, and it's especially not as good a movie as Casino Royale. There are a few things about Spectre that I didn't like. The number one thing I didn't like about Spectre was the storyline. I thought the storyline was really convoluted and really sort of overfluffed towards the end of the film. When I was watching this movie, it didn't feel like a cohesive storyline. It felt sort of like patchwork stories were getting thrown into and they made a movie. It didn't work and it kind of just felt misplaced. One of my biggest issues with this movie is in Act 3. Act 3 is when the movie really gets on its high horse and it's just overinflated. It sort of makes no sense, it's convoluted, and it's just relying on quips and cliches, and it bothered me. Another issue I had with the movie, along with the storyline, was that the villain really wasn't that well developed. And Christoph Waltz is a great actor, no one's denying that, but I don't think he was used enough in this movie. He's in maybe 2 or 3 scenes, and the scenes he's in don't make any sense because the story doesn't make any sense, and his motivation is just really weak and really lame, especially because there's a twist towards the end that involves Oberhauser's character that I just felt didn't work at all, and they really were pushing for it to work, and it didn't. So going off of the villain and the storyline, I just wanted to say that I felt like it was really lazy filmmaking, lazy story making. Nothing seemed to be cohesive or make any sense. In Skyfall, the story has a beginning, has a middle, and it has an end. In Spectre, I feel like it doesn't really have a beginning. There's a substantial middle, and then the end is just really convoluted, and it goes off in 3 or 4 different directions. Okay, so that's enough about the negatives. Let's go to the positives. Number one positive is the acting is always really excellent. I mean, I really like Daniel Craig as Bond. I thought he was really good. He's always been pretty good as Bond. He's a good Bond. He's got that street cred, he's got that toughness, and he's got that debonairness that Bond always has, and I like him as Bond. Great. Next thing I want to talk about, Ralph Fiennes as M. Really enjoy him as M. Ralph Fiennes is a great actor. He did a good job. Christoph Waltz as Oberhauser. Christoph Waltz is an amazing actor. Really, absolutely fantastic actor. 2-time Oscar winner. Great. The thing is, he's not used well in this movie. I'm not going to fault him. The parts he was in were really good. There was one boardroom scene that gave me chills and goosebumps, and that was because he acted it so well. It also had something to do with the way it was shot. Léa Seydoux was really good in the movie. I believed her. I liked her. She was a good actress. The thing is, though, the love interest didn't work for me. They really tried to force it a lot, and I know a lot of people that are saying that they tried to force the love interest, and I just thought it didn't work. They tried to wrap things up too nicely. It just didn't work for me. Dave Bautista was a surprise for me. He's becoming a surprise for me in all the movies he's in. He's becoming really funny. He's becoming a really imposing force in films, and I like his acting, especially his physical acting. He did really well in this movie, and I love the way they handled his character. He didn't have a lot of dialogue. I think he had maybe 1 or 2 lines, but, he said them perfectly fine. It's just his physical acting and the mannerisms he gives that makes him super memorable in every movie he's in. Again, playing off of the quips they do with the Bond movies, he has something about him that's sort of intriguing, and that's a lot of other Bond villains have, and I liked it a lot. Actually, I'm going to backtrack for a second and talk about one more negative, and that's the cliches in this movie, the Bondisms, you could say. In the beginning of the movie, I really liked them. They were doing them really well and subtle enough that it was that's James Bond thing. That's a James Bond thing. I get it, because it's a Bond movie. But by the end, the cliches were way too much, and it just sort of felt like they peppered them in because they couldn't think of other things to write at that time. Okay, so back to the positives now. Let's talk about cinematography. This movie is beautiful looking. Spectre might be the best looking Bond movie ever made. There's an opening tracking shot in this film that blew me away. I mean, jaw to the floor. It was fantastic. There's also another scene on a train that blew me away as well. You're going to watch this train scene, the music cuts out, the cinematography is perfect, that it took me to another place. I was there. Another thing I really like about the Sam Mendes Bond films is the visceral action, the in-your-face brawling that I feel like these movies have. When I'm watching this movie, I don't feel like the fighting is choreographed. I don't feel like the action is choreographed. I just feel like it's happening and I'm watching it happen. There was no shaky cam. There was nothing like that. It was just visceral, in-your-face. It was great. Another thing I really like about this movie is the amazing score. Just sitting down and listening to this movie happen was worth the admission alone. tone. In the beginning of the film, there's these awesome drums, and it's just setting up the mood really perfectly. In the middle, there's this amazing chase scene, and there's operatic music that gives it this epic feel. And then by the end of the movie, you're listening to the Bond tune, and you're super into it. You're like, oh yeah, cool, Bond is doing stuff, and it just feels amazing. So yeah, the score killed it, knocked it out of the park. That being said, Spectre really was disappointing to me. It felt like it was really lazy filmmaking at times, and the story was just way too inconsistent for me to give it that high of a rating. So that's why I'm going to give Spectre a 6.5 out of 10. Now, that doesn't mean to not go see Spectre. It was still super fun. I still had a really fun time going there, but I was disappointed leaving the theater. And I don't know if that has to do with my own expectations or if it because Skyfall was such a good movie. So anyway, guys, let me know what you thought of Spectre. Let me know if you thought the storyline was sort of convoluted and if it didn't feel right to you. Let me know what you thought of what's probably going to be Daniel Craig's last outing as James Bond. And let me know if you want to see Sam Mendes return for Bond 25. For Razzle, I'm Zach. Remember to have a great day.